Welcome to the discussion of Part 6, Chapter 3. In this chapter, Raskolnikov is going in search of Svidrigailov, and as he's walking, he's thinking of a couple of things. He's wondering, what is Svidrigailov planning to do with the information that he has regarding Raskolnikov murdering the pawnbroker? He overheard him confess to Sonia, and he's wondering if it's possible that Svidrigailov has gone to Porfiry, because Porfiry has told Raskolnikov that he has a key piece of evidence against him that is enough to arrest him. And so he's contemplating, would Svidrigailov have gone and done that, maybe to get him out of the way, out of the picture with Dounia. But he thinks that that isn't really the vibe that Svidrigailov's been giving off lately, and so he doesn't think that that's the case. And then he's also wondering about the letter that Razumihin had mentioned that Dounia had received but not shown him, so he doesn't know who it's from. And he's wondering if it's possible that Svidrigailov has written to Dounia and told Dounia that he overheard Raskolnikov confess. And so as he's walking along, he's walking in a not regular route that he would typically take, and all of a sudden he sees Svidrigailov in a tavern window, and he's very surprised because he was going to go to see him at his house, and yet here he's run into him in a very unusual part of town that he's not normally in, and just sitting at a table, and they kind of see each other, pretend they don't see each other. Then Svidrigailov waves him up, and Raskolnikov goes up. And Svidrigailov's in a pretty merry mood. He's been drinking champagne, and it seems like he kind of owns the room. Like he is very comfortable there. He's brought in musicians from the street to play for him personally. He's got a waiter at his beck and call. And he's like, "Oh, Raskolnikov, come sit down." He's very interested in talking to Raskolnikov. Raskolnikov is not interested in talking. He never really is. And eventually he gets kind of tired of it, and he kind of gets straight to the point, and he says, Raskolnikov suddenly, coming with nervous impatience straight to the point, "Even though perhaps you are the most dangerous man if you care to injure me, I don't want to put myself out anymore. I will show you at once that I don't prize myself as you probably think I do. I've come to tell you at once that if you keep to your former intentions with regard to my sister, and if you think to derive any benefit in that direction from what has been discovered of late, I will kill you before you get me locked up. You can reckon on my word. You know that I can keep it. And in the place second, if you want to tell me anything, for I keep fancying all this time you have something to tell me, make haste and tell it, for time is precious and very likely it will soon be too late." So coming straight to the point, saying, if you think that you're going to blackmail me with this information, I can assure you that I am not as scared of that as you would think. And if you have continued intentions towards my sister, I will kill you, and I'll do it before you can get me locked up. And if there's something that you have to tell me, you better tell me quickly, because my time here is short. And Svidrigailov's kind of taken back by this. He's like, "Wow, you're in such a haste. Don't get yourself all up in a tizzy." And he's like, I just think that you're an interesting person. I just want to get to talk. I want to talk to you. I want to get to know you. Raskolnikov's like, why? He just doesn't understand at all. And Svidrigailov is like, because of your sister, because your sister talked about you all the time and how important you were in her life, how much of an impression you've made on who she became. And I want to get to know you. And he said that, he spent 7 years in the country with Marfa Petrovna, and he's, basically dying to talk to somebody interesting, and Raskolnikov interests him, and he wants to get to know him. He said, I won't contradict you. Besides, I'm no hand at philosophy. I confess that I hastened here for the sake of the women. And he says, as soon as you buried Marfa Petrovna, it's kind of like he's really calling him out. Like, you came here 3 seconds after she was dead, and you're here to chase women. And because when they had their first meeting, Svidrigailov had been like, "Oh, let me put you at ease that I want anything to do with your sister. I'm soon to be engaged." And he's like, "You've been here for like 3 seconds. Like, how are you engaged?" And he's like, "Oh, I got friends." And so he's, he knows that he's here, for the women. He's been like, he's a womanizer. And Raskolnikov is like, well, you know, that's a vice. It's a dangerous vice that you have. And he's like, yeah, well, he says, it's nothing to rejoice at. It's a disease and a dangerous one. Oh, that's what you think, is it? I agree that it is a disease, like everything that exceeds moderation. And of course, in this, one must exceed moderation. But in the first place, everybody does so in one way or another. And in the second place, of course, one ought to be moderate and prudent, however mean it may be. But what am I to do? If I hadn't this, I might have to shoot myself. I am ready to admit that a decent man ought to put up with being bored, but yet he's basically like, if I didn't have this vice, this is like what I'm doing to keep from being bored. And if I, basically like to be bored, he would rather shoot himself. And Raskolnikov like kind of perks up with this, and he's like, could you shoot yourself? And you have to wonder if he's asking this question because there's been several times where Raskolnikov has stood on the bridge and kind of contemplated suicide. And his last thing that Porfiry told him was like, should you not want to turn yourself in and you take an alternate route, i.e. suicide, please write your confession before you do that. So suicide is something that has thought of and has just been mentioned to him. So when he hears this, I'd have to shoot myself, he's like, could you do that? I think what he's really saying is, could I do that? Could I shoot myself? And Svidrigailov says, oh, come, parried with disgust. Please don't speak of it. He added hurriedly and with none of the bragging tone he'd shown in all the previous conversation, his face quite changed. I admit it's an unpardonable weakness, but I can't help it. I'm afraid of death and I dislike its being talked of. Do you know that to a certain extent I'm a mystic? And Raskolnikov's like, oh yeah, you've been seeing your dead wife. Has she made any other appearances? And he's like, no, thank God. Kind of like, no, she hasn't. And he's irritated with that. That had him very unsettled. And he's like, he goes, I wish I had more time to talk to you, but I have an engagement. And Raskolnikov is like, oh, a woman? And he's like, well, that's not what I really want to talk about. He's like, I want to spend more time. And he says, sit down and stay a little, Svidrigailov begged. Let them bring you some tea anyway. Stay a little. I won't talk nonsense about myself, I mean. I'll tell you something. If you like, I'll tell you how a woman tried to save me, as you would call it. It will be an answer to your first question indeed, for the woman was your sister. May I tell you? It will help spend the time. Raskolnikov says, tell me, but I trust that you. And he says, oh, don't be uneasy. Besides, even in a worthless low fellow like me, Avdotya Romanova can only excite the deepest respect. So he says that he doesn't have time to talk to him, but then he says, well, maybe I'll spend a little bit more time with you and I'll talk not about all this, my vices and all the bad things, but I'll tell you a story that is important to me, and it's how a woman tried to save me, and it was your sister. And Raskolnikov's like, oh, here we go. And he's like, no, I have the utmost respect for your sister. Nobody could have anything but the utmost respect for Avdotya Romanova. And so that's where the chapter ends. In the middle of their conversation, which I don't know why Dostoyevsky did that, but the next chapter picks up their conversation. So meet me in the next video and we'll read the rest of their conversation and find out what they have to say.